Joining me right now is Democratic Senator Jeanne Shaheen of New Hampshire. She is the top Democrat on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee. Senator, thank you for being here. You have said that you do not think this is going to be a serious negotiation without Ukraine at the table. So what do you think is going to happen tomorrow?
Well, we'll see. Unfortunately, President Trump has set one red line after another, and Vladimir Putin has continued to cross them. And the history there is not good because Vladimir Putin has been playing President Trump virtually since he got into office. But hopefully, what the president said yesterday after his call with European leaders and President Zelensky was that he understood that there would not be decisions made about Ukraine without Ukraine, which has been a mantra for a long time, and that no territory accession, no land swaps would be part of any discussions tomorrow. So I'm hopeful that that's the case. Seems to be a recognition that Ukraine needs to be at the table. The president has talked about if there's some agreement tomorrow for a ceasefire, that a follow-up meeting with President Zelensky could happen. I think that would be a positive step.
Learning this morning that the leaders are going to hold a press conference together after that sit-down. It had been a big question of how it was going to play out. How risky do you think a joint press conference is right now, considering the history that President Trump has in joint press conferences with Vladimir Putin?
Well, as you point out, the history has not been good. We remember Helsinki when he sided with Vladimir Putin over our own intelligence community. So that is not a good sign. Hopefully he's learned something. His rhetoric seems to have toughened on Vladimir Putin and the Russians in recent weeks. So we'll see what happens. But I think the important thing is, if nothing happens at this summit, if we don't see any action, that Congress is ready to act. We have a sanctions bill that has over 80 sponsors, bipartisan, that would take strong action against Russia, against China, against those countries that are enabling this unprovoked war in Ukraine. And I think Congress is ready to pass that. And if the president can't get any progress, then we intend to act.
Well, what Congress has been essentially waiting for is for Donald Trump to say that he supports this secondary sanctions bill. When he says yesterday that severe consequences are coming if Putin doesn't agree to end the war, do you have any indication that that means that he now does support and will throw his support behind this secondary sanctions measure that has broad bipartisan support but is sitting in Congress?
Well, he's been willing to say he's going to sanction India for their continued purchase of Russian energy. I think that's a positive sign. And what's important here is that our adversaries are watching what we do. What happens at this summit, what happens with Ukraine, matters to Xi in China as he's thinking about and calculating what he's going to do on Taiwan. It matters to the North Koreans as they're looking at how they're continuing to support Russia. So there are ramifications that go beyond just the war in Ukraine. And it's important for America. You know, what this president has done by setting one red line after another and then allowing Vladimir Putin to cross it has been an embarrassment. It's an embarrassment to Donald Trump. It's an embarrassment to the United States that he has not been willing to stand up for what he said he was going to support.
President Putin spoke out this morning with new comments ahead of the summit, in part saying that the current American administration is making, in my opinion, quite energetic and sincere efforts to stop the hostilities, stop the crisis, and reach agreements that are of interest to all parties involved in this conflict. Senator, how do you interpret that?
Listen, if you believe what Vladimir Putin has to say, I have some wetland in Madbury, New Hampshire that I can sell you. You can't believe anything Vladimir Putin says. He is a former KGB agent who is trained in manipulation. He is going to do everything he can to string along Donald Trump, to string along America, and to continue this war in a way that allows him to continue to build up, continue to make gains on the battlefield. And until we put some real pressure on Russia, until we provide additional weapons and support to Ukraine, and I have legislation, bipartisan legislation to do that, until we crack down on those people like China who are enabling Russia to continue its war machine. I have bipartisan legislation with Senator Cornyn on that. He is going to continue to play us along.